Hi, welcome to San Diego Comic-Con at home, lights, camera, identity, never alone. A celebration of LGBTQIA+ love, identity, community, and empowerment. My name is Chase Masterson, and in 2013, with author Carrie Goldman, I founded Pop Culture Hero Coalition, which is the first ever nonprofit to use stories from TV, comics, and film to make a stand for empathy and real-life empowerment over bullying, racism, misogyny, LGBTQI+ bullying, cyberbullying, and other forms of injustice. We use stories we love to make this a world where we can all live long and prosper. We've got a fantastic set of panelists here for you today to tell their stories so that you can make your story one of love and empowerment. My coalition colleague Raymond Litster is here to announce some panelists.
Thanks, everybody. I'm looking down the table. If we were at Comic-Con right now, but it's different because we're all looking at each other in little boxes on the screen, sign of the times. But we're getting out there, and we're happy everybody's joining us out there. I'd like to introduce some really good friends of mine that I'm so happy we're forging this new relationship with. I'm gonna start off with Pandora Boxx, who everyone will remember from season 2 and All Stars 1 and Drag You, which I enjoyed. Pandora is an amazing friend, and this is our third panel together, and we'll be working together moving forward. Welcome, Pandora Boxx, everyone.
Thank you. So you were the one that liked RuPaul's Drag You. I'm glad. Now I know who it was.
I like the rock and roll 80s episode. Anyway, moving right down the table to Silky Nutmeg Ganache, everyone. Silky is an amazing, kind soul who I first met at RuPaul's Drag Con last year and just struck me as the kindest person in the room, and we forged a great friendship, and I'm so excited to be working with Silky. This is our second panel together. Welcome, Silky Nutmeg Ganache.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
And moving right along to our third RuPaul's Drag Race most current contender, we have Jackie Cox, everyone, a Star Trek friend through and through, who we met at WonderCon several years ago, and we're kindred spirits, Chase, Jackie, and I, and we've been really good friends, and we're moving forward with our friendship as well. The three of you joined us on our panel a few months ago, and we're moving forward with our new comic book, which we'll talk more about later, but the three of you, our heroes, will be mentoring heroes to kids across the country and beyond in our new comic book, and we'll talk about that later, but thanks to the three of you for being here. You're amazing.
Thanks for having us.
Yay! Thank you so much, Raymond. Joining us is senior culture reporter for the Huffington Post, Curtis Wong.
Hi, everybody. Happy Pride, and thrilled to be here.
And our next guests are arguably two of the most powerful, prolific people ever to impact the LGBTQIA+ community, its issues, or allies. They have photographed hundreds of thousands of faces worldwide, have photographed Congress, created a movement that impacted a marriage equality, and are with us today for their 7th Pop Culture Hero Coalition event. I am so pleased to announce No Hate Campaign founders Adam Bouska and Jeff Parshley.
Thanks for having us.
And finally, I am so excited to have you here. This guest has sold over 39 million albums worldwide, including with Savage Garden, and 5 million albums in his own career. Give it up for the multi-talented, multi-award-winning, we love you truly, madly, deeply, Darren Hayes!
Oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm a little starstruck, so thank you for having me.
All right, we've got a fantastic panel ahead of us. I'm going to scoot right on in and start with you guys, Adam and Jeff. You've created such a powerful movement of connectivity and support, and yet there are still so many people who are stuck at home with parents during coronavirus who don't understand them or support them. Tell us how it was for you growing up and why you decided to start this incredibly powerful movement.
Well, we started the No Hate campaign in direct response to the passage of Proposition 8, which bans same-sex marriage, but it's really grown to speak out to all forms of discrimination. It's really been awesome to see the community come together. It really wouldn't be what it was unless the community shared their voices and showed that hate really applies in all formats, whether it's race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity. We're all different in so many different ways, but if we can show that and we can educate people, it can kind of take away that fear of the unknown, and it can kind of bring us closer together. And through sharing our stories, I think that's what we're all encouraging at the end of the day. I think it all comes down to that.
I mean, he hit it on the head, but I think what was always important for us was to bring communities together. You know, when we go around the country and technically the world doing these photo shoots in small cities, which is kind of similar to the small cities that Adam and I grew up in, it means a lot for us to be able to bring these communities together and to show the faces of the people who support equality and to provide a platform to create dialogue, because these photos do start conversations. And so it kind of opens up the door for that dialogue to happen. And that, you know, that's always been really important to us. And to this day, it's what we keep doing.
For me, I grew up in a really small town in a small area of central Illinois. So for me, I didn't have a lot of resources. There weren't really gay figures on television, anyone to really identify with. The whole gay identity wasn't even discussed. So for me, it adds a level of importance for us to get back to small towns and for us to have those discussions, essentially. So, because coming from that small town, I understand how hard it can be. And sometimes when we live in an area like LA, it's easy to forget that in those big cities, in those bubbles. You don't have to go very far to see how it can really impact our youth. And the youth are paying attention and they're listening, so it's important we speak out.
And how about you, Jeff?
You know, like we already stated, we both did grow up in small towns, and not having shows like RuPaul's Drag Race to identify with somebody, or even shows like Glee or just anything that has a featured gay character. I mean, I remember Wilson Cruz being one of the first gay characters or first gay people I've ever even remember. But my coming out was relatively easy. My mom, you know, she was extremely accepting. She told me she knew before I knew. But I think it's important to remember that Adam and I weren't activists prior to the campaign starting. You know, we weren't the people that were pushing no on Proposition 8 or doing anything that had to do with activism. But when our rights came under attack and we felt like we had an obligation to speak out, and we decided to speak out through a photo. And so the photo really sparked our activism. So we really do hope that by going from city to city and providing these photos to other people, that potentially they can now become activists after they take the photo for the first time too.
Yeah, activism has really changed with social media, and it's really been able to reach kids, whether it's in a small town or whether you're clear across the world. So it's important to make use of that that message and that platform, and to use it for good, and to unite and to speak out against essentially injustice.
And during these tough times, it's hard because you know, people are stuck at home, and kids are stuck at home with, and adults are stuck at home with people that aren't accepting of them. But luckily, we do have the internet these days, and we can find people that are like-minded, that think like us, that we can talk to, and hopefully get us through these tough times. Technically, Chase, you have really made that happen, because you're the one that's bringing this together, and you're the one that's getting these panels at Comic-Con that never existed before, and you're the one that's sharing our story. So we appreciate you for that. And that's why it was important for us to be a part of this one, because we're not in a big hall in front of a big group of people, but we are still together, and we are still sharing our stories, and we're still connecting with people. And that's why being a part of your panel has always been important to us.
Well, like Jeff said, we weren't activists when we had started this, but it's important for us to use your passion and what you're good at to kind of spread that message and to speak out. So for me at the time, I was a photographer, and that seemed like a natural way to respond to what was going on in society. So we started with Jeff's image, and we uploaded that online. And like you said, it started with a conversation, and that's still true today. For us, it's about the conversation. We don't expect the photo to be the end-all solution for everything, but conversations can create change, and we know that's true. We've seen the success in that. So if we can see that continue to happen, we're just going to continue taking photos and continue to make that difference. Because for us, we've seen one person can make a difference. Jeff uploaded his photo, and people have influence over their family, friends. You never know who's listening, and that can start with a photo. So for us, that's our passion, and that's how it works. So we encourage other people to do it with their passions, whether it's entertaining, whether it's writing, whether it's dancing, everyone has a way to speak out and to create a statement and create a message. And for us, that's through photography, and that's just how it works for us.
And just to make a side note, like, we didn't take the first photo thinking we were going to start a photo campaign. We took the first photo as a way to speak out via our own social medias. And honestly, we went through almost 1,000 photos. Like, we had 50 people showing up at our apartment to come take these photos. And then by the time we get to 1,000 photos, we realize something's happening here. People are connecting, people are resonating, people are using this tool we're providing. And that's when we said, what can we do with this to make it more for more people? And that's when we decided to create an organization and call it the No Hate Campaign and take it to different cities. So it really just started as one photo, not even an idea for anything to move past that until the community told us, we need this.
And it seems like a simple idea, but as we've seen in 2020, a simple message of no hate is needed now more than ever.
Absolutely, now more important than ever. And I want to address our audience. You know, just as Jeff and Adam were two guys sitting in an apartment thinking, I want to help, what can I do? Your voice matters, and you have gifts and talents and abilities and ideas that you can use to change lives. We're going to need every hand on deck here. And what's so great about this is that you never know how many people that you are able to support just by a small move of encouragement, whether it's on social media, using your voice at the dinner table, whether it's showing up sometime when it's safe and saying, here I am, what can I do to help? Your voice counts. So be encouraged, get out there somehow in whatever ways you can and use it to make a difference. You may impact one life, or it may be bigger than you can possibly imagine. Thank you so much, Adam and Jeff. I'm gonna come back to you, but go on now to Darren Hayes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my goodness, it's, I mean, Chase, you are one of my favorite people in the world, and I have witnessed your work from a close range, and I can be testament to the fact that your heart is even bigger in person. So it's such an honor, and now more than anything, especially now, this is so important, and I'm privileged to be here. So thank you for including me.
It's an honor to have you here, Darren. You have such a powerful story, partly because you came out when you were already a huge public figure with a great big global fan base and record contracts. Tell me about your experience in that.
Sure, I'll try and keep it short. One thing I do want to say is, in this position that I have as a white person, is that at the moment my focus is entirely on Black Lives Matter at the moment, and Black trans lives. And I feel so privileged to be a part of this community, because I have a tiny window, I think, into what entire generations of people of color have felt, you know, in terms of discrimination. I'm not comparing the two, but our empathy, and I think that the marriage between the LGBTQI community and the Black community is a beautiful one. And I'm so proud of our community and the way Pride this year is partnering up with Black Lives Matter. So I just wanted to say that for one thing, and also just acknowledge that I'm just sitting here because I have so much privilege in terms of being able to speak and have a platform. And thank you for letting me have it. So I'm 48. When I grew up, I was from a small town in Brisbane, Australia, where I didn't think I knew any gay people. Of course I did, but I didn't think I knew any gay people, and I didn't have anyone who was a role model. And my childhood was quite violent. My father was a violent alcoholic, and very homophobic, and I was bullied at school. And my journey to becoming what I affectionately call a pop star is not unlike the transformation that maybe we see in drag or in any of the cons in terms of cosplay. I saw my journey to becoming a pop star as an escape, really, because there was this unique me who was bullied, who was told he was gay before I even knew what that meant. And I just knew I just wanted to shine. I wanted to be colorful, and my music and the persona that I had as a pop star was really wonderful expression of the human will. It reminds me of when you see flowers growing up through concrete, because I couldn't be stopped. The person that I was just sort of appeared. I was one of those people, like many people from my generation, who I didn't really have anyone in the public eye that I could relate to, who I thought was like me. And the only people who were famous and gay were villainized. I grew up in the period of the explosion of HIV and AIDS, and so gay people were feared. And at best, we were entertaining clowns, and at worst, we were dying of some strange contagious disease. So I didn't have anything positive about my gay experience to even cling on to. And then when you fast forward to me becoming famous and having a career, the record company at the time actively suppressed that. I remember shooting a music video, and I dared to dance in the music video, and it was pulled. It cost like $1 million, and the record company made us reshoot it because I looked too gay. So that was the culture that I was kind of brought up in. And by the time I made the decision to come out, it was because I loved myself more than I loved public approval. I had no idea what people would say. I had a lot of female fans who have been incredible and have always stuck with me, but there's always that fantasy, I think, that our idols are people that maybe we can end up with. And I was afraid that I would be rejected, and the opposite happened. I just had an overpouring of love and acceptance. You know, my coming out was, I announced, this is how old I am, on MySpace, on my blog, that I'd married my boyfriend. And it was before equal marriage was a thing, but we got married, and it was a wonderful thing and a transformative experience. Sorry for the ramble, but that's sort of the shorter story.
That is so powerful, and I adore your husband, Richard, and you're one of the best couples I know, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Darren, you also mentioned one of the incredibly painful truths about this country and the state of Black Lives Matter, and our developing empathy and how important it is for all of us to band together before November. Tell us more about your thoughts on that.
Well, as a gay man, I think it's important to always acknowledge too that the pioneers of our movement were people of color, and especially the trans community and the Black trans community. I'm really disturbed, obviously, by the frequency of death and murder for Black trans people. I think that the insanity of the moment where we had to witness someone being murdered on camera, for the entire nation to really stand up in this moment and say enough, is heartbreaking, because obviously we all know about brutality in all of our othering. All of us have experienced some form of discrimination or violence or worse. And the prevalence of cell phones and filming has not meant that these crimes are increasing. It just means that they're being reported. And you know, I've cried so much over even my own ignorance as a white person. I will ashamedly and happily admit that it wasn't until this month that I really understood what the Tulsa massacre was. I didn't know. It was only this year that I understood that the Statue of Liberty was originally designed to commemorate the end of slavery. And so much Black history, I think, growing up in Australia was erased from the history books. So much Black history has been erased from American textbooks. And so even though this is a really turbulent time and a really difficult time, I'm so grateful to be alive and be a part of it and to witness some change. the tears that I feel, or the cry in my throat, just comes from the fact that there's still so much suffering, and for sensitive people, and we all are. I think anyone that is in the arts, we're blessed with the curse and the blessing of feeling everything, but it's incredibly painful to see and to understand just how much suffrage has occurred in order for us to get to this moment. But to be positive, I feel so hopeful for the first time in such a long time. The fact that the Dreamers were protected recently in the Supreme Court was huge. That's such a huge, huge thing. The fact that I can be married to the man that I love, that's such a huge thing. The fact that we're pressing for police reform and defunding policies that actively discriminate, and my opinion of the prison system in this country that I love and live in is essentially that it's just an extension of slavery. And I think a lot of people much wiser than me have spoken on that issue, but we're aware of it. And that's an extraordinary thing. So for a group of us here who have all experienced bullying and othering in some way, and all folks at home who are listening, or teens who are in a family maybe that don't accept them, this period in history, this turbulence, this revolution, I think is so hopeful, because it's showing people that they're not alone, and also that we can all lift each other up. We can't compare our pains and our grievances. If I did, I would obviously say that my experience pales into insignificance to the Black experience, but I know that we share a common goal, which is dignity and equality. And the fact that we're all working together, it really, really is something that touches me. And I might be one of the oldest people here, and this is one of the first times in history that I feel like this convergence of common goals and equality have really, really come together in this moment.
So true. Absolutely. There is a convergence and there is hope. And it is when we stand together that we can really make things happen. It's going to take all of us. Black, Indigenous people of color, LGBTQI plus community, white people, straight people, allies of all kinds standing together to create the kind of world we want. And it's my hope that when we make significant changes in this country, that we can really begin to teach children to make these changes going forward, and we can branch out to the rest of the world, because as difficult as it is here, it is also very difficult in other places. There's a lot of work to do, and it's going to take all of us. Thank you so much, Darren. Curtis, I'm going to take this to you now. You are a senior reporter with Huffington Post, which is known to be a liberal publication. We are under such a siege and attack in this country with lies and corruption and a terrifying slant toward authoritarian rule under Trump and policies that are not inclusive. Tell us, where do you see this going, and how can we use our voices to counteract that?
Well, first of all, I have to say we had a really great, amazing Supreme Court victory last week. So that was really, really, oh gosh, where do I begin? It caught me totally off guard. First of all, I was not expecting that to go the way that it did. So, amazing news there. So that for me was sort of like a nice moment of excitement and celebration, but also like a reminder that to be hopeful for the future. As you mentioned, it's been a really, really dark time for a lot of marginalized groups at the LGBTQ community, also the Black community, of course. Speaking to Darren's point earlier, I've been finding a lot of strength and solidarity, and it's good. It's been really good and really heartening for me to see sort of the groups really coming together at this time. And I don't know if that would have happened had the pandemic not taken place before, and had it hadn't really laid a lot of the sort of outdated and racist structure, outdated structures, like it hadn't laid them bare as much as it did. Would we be coming together the same way? I don't know. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's sort of what was top of my mind right now. So yeah.
Yes, it does. People of color have been much more adversely affected by the pandemic than white people. In Chicago, people of color are 5 times more likely to catch COVID than white people. There is so much inequality that we need to address in this country, and so much of that has to do with people getting the information to know that that is true, that that is what's happening here. We're not taught history, and we're not taught current events in ways that are effective. Curtis, tell me, what do you see as a journalist that we can do to counteract the lies and the hatred and the mess that's happening in terms of false information being spread on the press? How can we counteract that with truth in our voices and in the media?
It's an important time to remind yourselves as private people of any group that you always should speak out when you're seeing things that are not true, or going against sort of your own belief system. It's a really important time to do that. It's like no longer a time to say like, well, I don't get involved in politics. Politics is important across the board, and now possibly more than ever. Certainly being in the media, it's a very challenging time. It's never not a challenging time in the media, but it's a very especially challenging time now, because people sort of subscribe to their own, like every news organization. You mentioned HuffPost being sort of a liberal-minded news organization. Every audience of a news organization sort of subscribes to the sort of political and socio-political nuance of that particular news organization, for better or for worse. So there's like a lot of competing viewpoints and a lot of competing. I hate to use there's a lot of competing viewpoints in the mix right now, and everyone's kind of subscribes to their own whichever suits their own mindset the best. But I guess it's more. The long and short of it is that like it's now more important to speak out against those injustices as it ever was. One thing I wanted to add is that it's important to keep your own privilege in check, to be able to identify the privileges that you have from whatever walk of life that you're from, and be like, okay, like, yes, this is my experience. Yes, I've had these hardships, but someone else has had different hardships than I have. I find it so often that people don't take the time to do that. And it's like, it's always like, well, I faced this in my life. I've experienced this. I've had it the worst. And I'm like, well, it's never a race. It's never to see who goes the furthest. It's always like to just be in a situation where you're always conscious of the privileges that you have from whatever walk of life that you have, and just to be able to empathize with those who don't have that same experience.
I was on another website. It was an anti-bullying website from UK, and I saw something interesting. It was a "Let us guess your sexuality" quiz. So naturally, I was curious and wanted to take this quiz. It seemed a little off to me. Some of the questions included: what is your favorite color? Do you like sprinkles on your ice cream? Do you like dancing, or do you like sports? And after I navigated these unusual and rather dated questions, the response was, "We're swamped. We don't know your sexuality." And this is an anti-bullying organization. I won't say their name. But I thought this was pretty off and a little upsetting. And I think it kind of goes back to something that I'm going to talk about later in the comic book. Is one of my main points is when boys are born blue and have a different set of rules, and girls are born pink and have different rules and expectations. And that's something we have to navigate through our whole life and fight against. We're putting these boxes and categories. So my question to everybody here, and anybody feel free to jump in and give me your opinions. How do you feel with these expectations that are put on you, and you have to navigate through the challenges of that for your whole life?
Well, I think, gender norms and expectations that don't make sense, because sexuality, gender, all that is a spectrum. You can't really fit it into a box, so it doesn't really make sense trying to. I think it's better to let people just be themselves and stop focusing on labels and colors and things like that just don't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I know some things about boxes. But
Hoping you chime
yeah,
in.
I think that's what drew me towards drag, was that it broke down all the gender norms and the gender stereotypes, and you could just get up there, because it's like, it is like RuPaul says, you're born naked and the rest is drag, because it is actually true. It's society that dictates that it's the women that wear the dresses. It's society that dictates all that. But it's like, well, why is that? Like, I wasn't born a woman, but I look fabulous in a dress, so I should be able to wear it.
You do.
I also think, why would you deny a full sort of section of the color wheel of the expression of being human? I'm so lucky that I have a 3-year-old goddaughter, and she teaches me so much about gender norms, because we made a conscious effort when I have her once a week, and I have since she was born, so I feel like I partly raised her, but we've never expected her to dress a certain way. We followed her lead, and it's been extraordinary learning from a child that has no preconceived notions about what male or female is. In fact, last week we fashioned dresses out of bits of fabric. Mine was something that was off the shoulder. And she just loved and accepted me so much. It was so powerful to see how a child can do that. And also, I just think, come on, some of the most fabulous people in the world paint with all the colors. I think back to I wish that I lived in a period where men wore makeup and that was considered masculine. Prince is one of my favorite sort of sex symbols and idols, and David Bowie. I love anyone that plays around with the full color palette. So yeah, I think it's very outdated, and we're free.
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
Jackie, do you have anything you want to add?
I'll say that it's amazing how much we are taught things that we think that we are, and how powerful it is to learn that you can really make a lot of these decisions for yourself, and that you don't have to abide by or believe in the things you were told you had to be, you had to look like, you had to do, you had to wear, you had to dress, you had to sound like, you had to move like. All of these things are things that we learned were things we had to do or should do based on not just our gender, but based on our socioeconomic background, our ethnic background, all of these things that we're taught how people should or shouldn't move through the world. And it's so freeing to learn that you can let go of all that and make the choices for yourself, and you can decide what you want to wear, how you want to look, what you want to sound like, how you want to move your body, swish it up as much as you want. There's no, the rules are in your head, and you're taught the rules from your parents and the society around you. And it's so powerful to be able to let go of those. And I think back to the mission statement of this group, that's where kindness comes from, is where you can learn to accept all of those things and you can be kind about them. And I think hate comes from the idea that everything has to be a certain way. And I think kindness can come from the idea that the opposite is actually true, and that we can all love each other even if we're different than what expectations are.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Curtis,
Very much
Silky,
so.
do either of you have anything you want to add?
I would add, sorry everybody, my internet is going in and out because I'm in Mississippi and I'm not used to this. I don't know what to say. But again, being in Mississippi, I see this often because it's just Southern and Bible Belt. And so like where I would like in a perfect world where all of this would end, I've seen this firsthand, and it's just not gonna like change immediately. And so like the way, what I've been doing with particularly my family and the people surrounding me is to, because I had a couple of cousins that just had a baby during coronavirus, which is crazy. But I think what I've been trying to portray is we have to train everyone around us to remember that love is unconditional and that children are innocent. And so we can't hold them to a standard or make them accountable when they don't even know what's going on in the world. So I think a good step is to make sure that we let the parents and people around us know, like, that's a child. Like, girl, don't take it too seriously. Like, it's a child. Like, so that's my viewpoint on it. And that's what I'm doing right now in Mississippi, in this southern state, because what else is it to do? Because it's just like, I don't know. Like, it's just restructuring the mindset. And it's crazy because the mindset of people are changing, especially right now in this time where someone was killed during a pandemic, at the hands of a police officer. So, like, people's minds are changing. And so I think in my way of doing that it would just keep ingraining, and people would think in their minds, like, okay, that's a child. Like, don't take it too seriously. Don't take it too far, to make sure you keep the innocence.
Can I just add one note about going off what you just said about accountability? I think that we also need to hold accountable the large brands and corporations that have products that are strictly marketed to a specific gender, in toys, in makeup, in dresses, in high heels, in handbags, in anything that is marketed by a corporation to a specific gender, is feeding into this problem of telling society that this dress is for women, when really anybody that wants to wear that dress should be able to wear that dress. So I think it's important that we hold those companies also accountable for marketing that way, and not only just the parents teaching society this, but the corporations are teaching society that there's a gender norm that needs to be followed. And I think that that's not true, because I mean, I'm wearing nail polish now, but I've never felt like nail polish has been marketed to me, but why? I'm wearing it. So why are they not thinking about me as a consumer, instead of just feeding into this narrative that nail polish is for women? So I think it's important that we also hold those brands accountable.
Yeah, gender norms and hate, it's all learned. Children, they don't know these things, but they'll definitely pay attention to what's happening in society, and they'll see these things. So it's important to hold these people accountable. Corporations are people too.
I kind of had a disastrous experience a little more than a year ago. My sister has 4 daughters, actually, and she had her my youngest niece in October, and last October, and over the summer she had a gender reveal party, which that's a whole mess in and of itself that I don't want to get into. But she had, like the cupcakes, and like you bite into the cupcake and it's pink or whatever, but it was really striking to me because, like, here I was at this gathering, and my family has been very accepting of me, to my knowledge, very accepting of LGBTQ people and so on. And I grew up in Connecticut, which is generally considered a pretty liberal place. The amount of like really sexist gendered language that took place at this party was like so shocking to me. Like, the minute they bite into this cupcake and they see that it's pink, they're talking to my brother-in-law, and they're like, oh, you're going to be stuck paying for prom dresses and for ballerina costumes, and like, you're going to have to get the shotgun off the wall when like the guys come around and everything. And I'm like, I can't believe that we're still stuck in this like obscene, sexist, dated language, and like people can't even be more creative. So I'm with you on the product marketing, and on the just, hopefully creating a better dialogue around these things, and knowing that there are, it does not have to be this confined idea of gender at all times. So
thank you so much, everybody. That was really good talk. I would like to introduce somebody next, and then want to open it up to our RuPaul personalities. I'd like to introduce Mr. Loki, this is Mr. Loki, everybody.
Hi.
Mr. Loki is an incredible artist and the illustrator for our upcoming new comic release. Our new comic will be coming out in a few months, and this comic book I was inspired to write actually at my experience at DragCon 2 years ago. It just seemed like it was needed. We had a first comic book that said issue 1, and in my mind was like, well, where's issue 2? And identity was something that I could draw from my past. And I know a lot of the people on this panel and a lot of you viewing this panel will be able to identify and come along with us on this journey in this comic book. I wanted to first say to Mr. Loki, I had goosebumps, and I don't really like that expression, but I really experienced it when I saw my shoddy storyboards come to life with your amazing artwork. And I'm so lucky that I found you and so honored that you are working with us on this comic book. I want to first for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your history and what drew you to comic books and a little bit about yourself. And then I'd like us to preview the first pages of the amazing comic book together.
Hi, I'm Loki. I'm a queer trans comic artist out of LA. I also am a pediatric bone marrow transplant nurse. So I do both of those part-time, and then I also do natural sciences illustration. So I'm kind of busy with a lot of hats, but I feel like the thing that got me into drawing in the first place was comics. It's the first time I think that I ever saw queer people in media was through independent comics. And so I think that's kind of just where my passion has always been. And a lot of the comics that I made, which is part of how Raymond found me, was I tried to do a lot of things that I didn't really get to see, even now to this day and age, just kind of like feel good fantasy comics about queer people. And a big thing for me was I wanted them to be non-sexually graphic, because sometimes a lot of the comics out there, if they're queer, they kind of lean in that direction. And so I wanted to make something that was more geared towards high schoolers, young adults. And I had the experience of having like a lot of teachers come, and some of the first things that come out of their mouth when they see my work is this explicit? Can I show these to children? And that's simply just because it's queer. And to me, that seemed wrong, that is like, you know, the mindset that allies have towards queer people in media. And so it was really important to me to try to bridge that gap and to try to make things that I wish that I had when I was younger, and had very limited scope of like what I could have access to. And so that's kind of where my passion lies. And so doing this project with Raymond has been such an honor. And thank you to all our queens that agreed to let us use your likeness in it. And I hope to do you all justice.
Amazing. We're so happy that you're working with us on this. Let's take a look at the comic. So here is our comic cover.
That's cool.
Wow.
So we'll be giving this comic, our intention is to provide this to LGBTQ plus centers and other like centers across the country and possibly beyond at no cost to the centers. Some of the first ones we'll be partnering with our Ed Asner Family Center here in LA, the LGBTQ Center in Long Beach, the Lambert House up in Seattle, and the Kind Clinic in Austin, Texas. So shout out to the 4 of you. Those are the first 4 who will be getting the batch of these comic books when they're released.
Looks so cool.
And then we'll go through a couple of the pages. So if we go back to the last one, or go to the front again. So my idea for this comic is this person at the bottom is the title character of this comic. And as a reader, a young reader, you don't realize it, but you're becoming that character because you're identifying with some of the struggles and challenges they're going through. Each of the Pandora has a section, and that's struggles at school. The next section is Silky's, and that's struggles at home. And then Jackie has the final section, which is when you see someone else having struggles and you're able to use your voice to help them. So by the end of the story, the title character says, I hope you were able to see some of yourself because I'm you after all. And it's whoever you are, and that's you, you're the character. So Mr. Loki, do you have any, like to take, I'm the only one talking.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's just been such an honor to work on, and the whole idea of the queens being like heroes that come out to help this title character. It's been really amazing to just work on, and Raymond is such an amazing writer and easy to work with, and so I only have the most respect and gratitude for allowing me to work on this.
So this is the first section, the Pandora section. So our title character is having struggles at school, and Pandora is the mentoring hero who's able to help our title character navigate some of those challenges. Pandora, I want Pandora to talk before.
It's amazing. It looks incredible, and I think that something like this would have definitely helped me if I had it when I was young and in school, and I was someone that was picked on every single day that I was in school, and worried about walking down the halls and what somebody would say to me. And I just thought I was the only one. I thought I was the only one ever going through it, and it was terrible. But then hearing stories from friends and colleagues and other people I know that thankfully I didn't have it as bad as other kids, but it just is kind of awful to feel like you're alone, and why are these people making fun of me? Because I didn't know that being queer was even a thing that you could be. Like, I didn't know it was. I didn't know anybody. My family never talked about it. It wasn't really on television or anything. So I just thought it was this terrible thing they were calling me. And even to this day, I think that I still carry a little bit of that, oh, it's terrible. Because there's times when I go out in public and I'm like, is somebody going to call me a name? Is somebody going to say something? And so it's just, it stays with you so long. And so I think something like this would be great for people to read, and young adults and kids, and to know they're not alone. And part of drag is like a superhero costume. Like, I put on this superhero outfit and I could be whoever I wanted to be. And in this Pandora persona, I had the guts to say everything that I wanted to say that I never could say before. So
Silky or Jackie, do either of you, one then the other, whoever wants to talk about the comic and seeing yourself in the comic and any of your story? And
I'm excited to see myself in the comic because for a little boy from Mississippi to have this major platform and to use my platform positively and to lead a life of inspiration with kindness, and, you know, to show other people that are like me that the world is your oyster. You just have to create that pearl and let it do it work. I'm just super excited to see that because I'm in Mississippi now, and I guess I never realized the impact that I had on people just from being on a reality TV show. And I have so many people following me, and even being home, so many kids that when I'm in a grocery store, I'm like, okay, honey, get back. You know, we can have a conversation. Give me my 6 feet, baby. But it's so crazy, and it's so hard not to hug them. And but I do it anyway, and I Lysol myself down. But I'm just so honored to be a part of this, and I'm honored to have the life that I have. And it's truly changed me as a person to make me think about the bigger goals in life, and to have bigger outreach, and to consider that when I'm doing projects in the future. So I know that it may seem like I may be changing other people's lives through this comic book, but truly my life has been changed through this.
Thank you so much. More on your experience. Because of the lack of education in this country, so many people are just now waking up to the horrors of the Black experience for centuries. And yet we know that for the Black community, this is nothing new. Tell us more about your experience in that.
What y'all seeing going on in the world, I have been fighting my entire life. So in Mississippi, I went to my first protest for the genocides in Louisiana, and me and a group of friends organized it, raised the funds to get there, buy the food, and we did work. That was like back in 2007, 2008. And since then, I've, marched Bloody Sunday in Alabama. I've done protests throughout college. So I guess for me, I've done protest and march. I went to the Trans March last year in Dallas. So for me, this is my life work has been going on. And I truly want to have a bigger voice about what's going on. But as someone that is Black, that has been fighting this fight my entire life, I have been more sharing my experiences through social media so that my non-melanin brothers and sisters can join this fight. Because now is the time. This has been going on for 400 years. Black folk have been oppressed, raped, enslaved, beat, hung, and we're in 2020 and the same thing is going on. Just last week, 3 people have been hung for trees. Like, this is unheard of. People are like lashing out and doing more and more ridiculous things, just, I guess, to prove a point. So now, if we really want to see positive and effective change, our brothers and sisters with no melanin has to speak up. So I have been encouraging people to do that in different ways and different forms, because there's not people that feel comfortable, they don't feel comfortable protesting. And that's your right if you don't want to protest because you don't feel safe. But, I have to encourage them and let them know, you know what, I'm a Black man in America. I don't feel safe with half the stuff that I am required to do in life. So, baby, you walking in my shoes for just a moment. But then I have to take that attitude back and say, okay, you don't want to do that. You can speak up for your Black friend when you see them not being treated fairly. I've gone to bars, even as Silky Nutmeg Ganache. I've gone to gay clubs and not been treated fairly by the bouncer, the bartender, the promoter. I'm still it's so crazy that I still have to fight for equal pay as a finalist of RuPaul's Drag Race season 11 against people who went home first that have no melanin. So when you see these things, you have to speak up about it. And in your workplace, I've been challenging, corporations. Thank you for the $50,000, $100,000 to the NAACP Defense Fund. Thank you for that. However, if you want pure change, and if you're really not following the trend, and if you're believing in what's going on right now, I need you to find a person of color and put them on your board of directors. I need you to start a diversity committee within your corporation. I need you to hire trans women within your corporation so that they're not being murdered or looking for other outcomes looking for other ways to make money because society has told them the way that they are living is wrong. I need you to simply make the workplace comfortable for Black folks, for gay folks, that conversations are not being had or microaggressions or not given to them. And if you don't know how to do that, me, being the master's degree, PhD soon, when I finish the program, and organizational leadership can come to your organization and I can help you restructure that for a consultation free, because honey, everything in life ain't free. And I ain't getting no services, honey. I still owe $95,000 to Sally Mae Naveman. So I think these are the things that should be happening. This is the way that I've just personally been using my voice to make things better. And I am so glad that my internet didn't go out through that.
Incredible. Well, congratulations on your master's and your upcoming doctorate, and thank you for your incredibly powerful voice. Jackie, I want to take this to you now. You are also a person of color who has had to navigate issues that have to do with your identity. Tell me, how has that taken place for you?
You know, I think what the panel's talked a lot about, and I think I'd love to echo, is to really acknowledge my own privilege in this moment. I have a lot. For the majority of my life, I've been white passing, and it's my choice whether or not to reveal that I am Persian or not. And I think what I've learned is that the more I give voice to the truths you may not know, the more I'm loud and proud about being gay, about being a drag queen, about being Persian, the less those things can be used to hurt me or others. And I think it's so important that we all embrace our intersectionality and at the same time embrace whatever privileges and power we have. 6 months ago, I had 6,000 followers on Instagram. And now I have such a huge platform where I know there's a lot of young people looking at me and what my actions are. And as a lighter skinned person, I know I have responsibility to speak out and lift up, the Black community, certainly the Black trans community, and also my Black sisters from RuPaul's Drag Race. And to acknowledge that in the fandom, there is this disconnect, unfortunately, and racism that's embedded in the fandom that we are working really, really hard to root out. And it starts with, supporting our fellow Black queens. And from there, we have to, keep doing harder, keep doing more. And I love what Silky was saying about actually like demanding the change from the corporations that that want to next year when the floats come back for Pride. I think Silky needs to be calling them all out, and I'm just going to echo everything that she says on all of that. And that's powerful stuff when you can take whatever those things were that maybe you were ashamed of, embarrassed to share, afraid to share, and use them as your armor. And I think that speaks to the superhero theme as well of pop culture, Hero Coalition, and this new comic book, that all of these things that make us different can also make us really powerful.
That is incredible, Jackie. So powerful. Thank you so much. Adam and Jeff, I want to take this to you now. You photographed members of Congress several years ago before things were as they are now. Tell me what that was like and what you and the members of Congress learned from each other during that experience.
For us, we had the idea to reach out to Congress because we wanted to hold these people accountable. These people represent a lot of different people, so we wanted to see where they kind of stood on these issues. It's not a hard thing to say no hate, so you think it would be a simple thing to get everyone to support that, but for some people, I guess it's a lot more difficult for them to take that stand. So it just goes to show how important saying no hate and making that stance can be, and using that platform. So we're going to continue to hold those Congress members accountable moving forward and continue to do what we do.
And actually, these photos hold people accountable in their own way. The same way when we go to a high school or when we go to Capitol Hill, the people that pose for the photos, that then post the photos, are being held accountable by the people around them when they start to do something or act in a way that is not in line with what the No Hate campaign stands for. They get called out and these photos, and by saying, you're accountable for what you're saying, and this is what you're believing, and putting it out there. So I think the photos act as a way to hold people accountable too.
That's great. I want to take this in a fun direction now. Adam and Jeff, congratulations on your partnership with K-Swiss. What is that like? I love the look of those shoes. Tell me how that happened.
That was a fun project for us to work on. We got to partner with K-Swiss on an exclusive Pride shoe. We have it right here, actually.
Ooh.
Well, that's so cool.
Beautiful.
It was cool for us because we've never actually partnered on an official merchandise product with a brand like K-Swiss before. And it was cool to work with an organization that was giving back as well, and not just putting their logo on it, and working with us to design the shoe. So I thought that was a really cool aspect of it all.
And going to what he said about, every Pride season comes around, and it seems like every single product out there has a new label with a rainbow on it, and you just wonder if the intentions are genuine behind that brand doing that to that product. If the money that's coming from that product is going back to the community that rainbow represents. And so when K-Swiss reached out to us to do this rainbow shoe, we told them exactly how we felt about corporations just using the rainbow. And they explained to us that that wasn't their intention, and that they wanted to make this not a rainbow K-Swiss shoe, but a rainbow no-hate shoe. So they asked us to help them design it. The no-hate logo was on the shoe in 5 different spots on one pair of shoes. So it's not just like they put a rainbow on a shoe and said, we're going to give you proceeds. They actually told the campaign story with the shoe. The shoe box has over 1,000 no-hate photos on the box. And in the box and in the lid of the box has the No Hate Campaign's mission statement. So they very much tried to tell our story and give us the range to be able to make sure people were aware that this was not just a brand putting on a logo and giving 10% of proceeds. This was a brand that was taking the organization's, what we stand for, taking that into consideration and allowing us the freedom to create what we thought would represent the campaign good, because we felt like the photos represent, like the steps that we're taking, and we wanted this shoe to also represent that. So we're really honored that they decided to work with us, and that they let us have so much control over it, and to share the campaign story with so many people. On the cover of the box with 1,000 photos, there's going to be photos that you would never think that an organization or a corporation like K-Swiss would put on their box, but they did, and for us it was extremely meaningful, and we just think it's a great example of what the campaign stands for.
And the best way to get the shoes is on your website, right?
You can visit kswiss.com. They're on journeys.com, and they're on nohatecampaign.com. A lot of sizes are sold out, but there's still a lot available, so you have to go check those out fast.
Congrats, guys. That is such a cool product and such a great story. And it really goes back to what you were saying, Jeff, about holding corporations accountable. So just congrats across the board. It's an incredible, fun shoe. We're going to have to start to wrap up now. And so, Raymond, do you want to go ahead and give some closing comments?
I wanted to thank everybody out there for joining us today, and your couch, your living room. We're in some challenging times, but we're all together in this, and we're a community, and we're here. Reach out to us if you ever need anything. I'm glued to social media, as a lot of other people are too in this time. So don't ever feel like you're alone. You can check us out on Superhero IRL. If you like our snazzy shirts, check out bekindmerch.org.
There we go.
Very nice. Again, thanks everybody. Thanks to our amazing panelists for taking this time and joining us today.
Jumping in here, our work is made possible by Be Kind merchandise at bekindmerch.org. We have these Be Kind shirts, which have funded our work. In terms of crowdsourced empathy, it's you guys pitching in $25 at a time saying, I like the shirt, I love the work, and I want to help make it happen. So we want to say thank you so much with all our hearts. Also, 100% of your donation or your shirt purchase goes to making this work happen. I am fully volunteer. I've never made a dime off of this organization in 7 years since I founded it in 2013. Raymond's work and all of our administrative work is done on a volunteer basis. And we just want to let you know that we take good care of your donations and the work we do. So thank you so very much for your support. And now for our wrap up. We gotta go. So starting with you, Jackie, and then you, Silky, if you could just give us 30 seconds of final thoughts for our audience.
All I can say to everyone out there is to remember your power, and remember that, kindness is a choice, and the more you choose to be kind, the more you embrace who you really are and who your power really is. No one is born hateful. And I think the more you embrace all of the goodness inside of you, the more you'll find the kindness. So keep doing that, and find the heroes in your life, whether they're on TV or not, who bring that out of you.
I just want to say, in everything that you do, make sure that you're being selfless, especially in this time of quarantine, this fight for civil rights, LGBT rights. Make sure that you're just taking yourself out of the equation because that's the only way this world is going to get better. So you're saying things because the news is crazy right now. I hate watching it. But if you're watching it, make sure that you're taking yourself out and considering how other people are feeling and what other people are going through, because that's the only way this world will change for the better.
No, I'm always so happy to be a part of this panel and this discussion. And there's no reason to be a bully, and I don't understand why we can't just want equality for all people and to be nicer to people and kinder. And I don't know, I think it feels better to be nicer to people. And it takes a lot of energy to be really angry and mean and terrible, like this administration. And I am just like, they must just pass out at night because they're so exhausted from being terrible for like weeks on end. And I mean, clearly, because the president can't even drink a glass of water. So he's clearly horrendous and terrible. But it's just like, it's very easy to smile and be kind, and everybody feels better when they smile. And everyone's different. Like, every person is different, and that's what makes us uniquely human, and we should just accept that. And I don't understand somebody that doesn't want to. I don't understand somebody that doesn't want equality for all people and doesn't want to fight for that and doesn't want to stand up for people that's all they want, to be treated equally and to have the same rights.
Authenticity is worth the effort. Authenticity is, the only truth that we have in our lives, and the things that set you apart during your early years and that you feel possibly the worst about during your younger years are those that are the most valuable to you. So.
Well, I want to say I'm so inspired by people like Silky, who are superheroes. And I want to remind anyone who is young, who feels othered or different, that the thing that makes you different is the thing that makes you extraordinary. And that is your superhero power. So for young people that get to watch people like Silky, that is the end of the superhero story, is that you get to go out into the world and fully be loved for who you are. You are essential, and there's nothing about you that is not lovable. So I would remind anyone who is questioning their validity to understand that there is a place for you, because we've all found it, and you will too.
Ever since the campaign started, we've always wanted everybody to be a part of it, and we wanted everybody's support, no matter who they are or where they came from or what they look like. So I think it's important that we remember that we really do need to stay united as a human with each other, because we would always say, today it's our rights that are at risk, but tomorrow it might be yours. And that tomorrow has come. And so I think it's important that everybody that we asked for support for us, we all have to encourage them to support everybody else. And another note is, since the campaign started, our goal has been to change hearts and minds. So we want support from people that have evolved also. And sometimes I think that people forget that although some of us have evolved into new, welcoming, supportive people, that they're still stuck on who we were. And I think that if we're going to ask people to change their thinking and to evolve, that we don't hold them accountable for what they used to be before their evolution.
And I think it's important to know, it's don't just go out there and say no hate. Don't just go out there and say Black Lives Matter. Go vote, go take action, stand up to injustice. It's important to hold other people accountable, and it's important to hold yourself accountable. This is 2020. We shouldn't be still fighting for these rights, but we are, and we need to do something about it.
Bam! Yes, and we need to do something about it. Thank you so much to all of our panelists, Adam, Jeff, Darren, Silky, Jackie, Pandora, Mr. Loki, Curtis. You all
for having
are
us.
incredible.
having
The
me.
work that you
Thank
do,
you,
your
everyone.
hearts, your minds, your fire. Thank you also to our audience for being who you are and for knowing that it's when we all band together, that's when we can make the world that we want to live in, the world of love and justice. And whether you are standing up for your cause or someone else's, it's all of our causes all the time. This is about humanity, and we are so glad to be on the same team with you and making incredible work and love and healing happen. So thank you, whether it's one person at a time or thousands. Thank you for the work you do, for being who you are, for the fun we have doing it together. And yeah, I'll see you there on the front lines. Chase Masterson signing off for Pop Culture Hero Coalition. Thanks.